guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be the part 2 of my kind of 2 years of doing sponsorships reflection meta series. And today was more of a kind of casual, chatty, get ready with me Q&A video. So I asked you guys on Twitter for some questions about sponsorships, brand deals, what I've learned while doing them, and I answered them all while doing this look. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. In a very meta turn of events, this video does in fact have a sponsor. I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community where you can choose through thousands of online classes to learn anything from creativity to content creation with yours truly. I teach 2 different classes on Skillshare, but I made a resolution with myself to try and watch at least 1 class on Skillshare every month. This month, my class recommendation of the month is Learn Anything with Flashcards, the ultimate guide to Anki. I know Anki is a huge favorite in the study strategy arsenal of med students. A lot of my friends at UCLA use Anki, and I kind of wanted to learn the ropes and make Anki a key part of studying for my MCAT. This class kind of explains how to use Anki, how to navigate the software, and also explains the science behind the spaced out studying methods with Anki, and I found it really helpful, especially if you have a lot of trouble with retaining information. I might make a video of my own about study methods if you want to see that, but that is my class recommendation of the month. You can use my link down below to try out Skillshare Premium for free. My class recommendation of the month and both my classes are on Premium, so if you want to watch those, you can support your girl. And after the free trial, Skillshare subscription is less than $10 a month. Skillshare has been a long-time supporter of my channel, and I'm very grateful to them. So thank you to Skillshare for partnering on today's video. Anyways, this is obviously a chatty get ready with me, so full details of this look should be throughout the video. I'm probably gonna be very shitty at mentioning the products as I use them, so they'll be in the description box as well. Today's do fairy of the day is Mary Wright. Thank you so much for having your notification bell on. And I think that's all I have to say. I don't know what to tell you. Let's get it.
And now me rapping Nicki Minaj as Adele in a Dolly Parton wig.
Pulled up in the monster automobile gangster with a bad bitch that came from Sri Lanka.
Okay, I should start filming. This is ridiculous. Alright, let's get started. I'm going to start off with no foundation, so I'm using the Becca Scam in a Jar. And I'm going to start off with the first question, which is kind of what this video is all about. What has been the biggest things you've learned in the process of doing sponsorships? I try my best to kind of integrate them in well. Granted, I don't do like the full-on sponsorship skits that like Curtis Connor does or Drew Gooden does. I think the way that they integrate their brand deals into their videos is just genius. Beyond hilarious. It makes people want to stay for the actual brand read part. More people are actually like watching the brand deal part rather than just skipping through it. And yes, I know that most people tend to skip ahead of sponsorship parts in videos whenever they're watching a sponsored video. I know this because I do that too, and it has nothing to do with how much you love the person that you're watching. I feel like most people will just tend to skip past a sponsorship if they have the option to. If you just hit the right button a couple times, it'll key right past the sponsorship part and you can just get to the rest of the regular video. So I totally understand why people do that. And I try and, like, I guess both take account for that whenever I'm sitting down and filming that part of the video, is that even though I know most people are going to skip ahead of this part of the video anyways, for the people that do stay and watch the sponsored part of the video, I want it to be worthwhile. So instead of just kind of like taking the script that a brand will give me and being like, oh, it's okay, I'll just read off of this, and people don't watch this part of the video anyway, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't feel natural and authentic. I try and work it into the video and make it feel somewhat natural. And in my opinion, the best way to go about sponsorships is to make them real and to go about using the product in a way that makes sense for you. It just makes it a lot more worthwhile and it still feels like part of the video. And that kind of answers another question I got, which is like, do you think that sponsorships hurt a creator's image or jeopardize the way the audience sees a creator? I would personally say no, and I say that from the perspective of somebody who watched YouTube for a very long time. I don't really watch YouTube as much anymore. For me, some of my favorite videos from YouTubers have been sponsored ones, and I love seeing creators who go about their brand deals in a really good way. That makes me even more excited to see a sponsored video from them rather than less excited. As long as the content that comes after that sponsorship still feels like their content, I'm happy to watch a sponsored video. I don't so much love videos where the sponsorship takes up the entire video, because I feel like it's very hard to be able to do a full dedicated video to a brand that still feels like your own content, which is why I don't really do those types of videos on my channel, just because I don't like watching them myself. And that's not to say I feel like those videos are completely fake, but it feels less natural than, hey, today's sponsor of this video is blank, and then doing a like 1 minute thing. For me, that feels more like the ad that would play in front of a video, except the creator gets to pick the brand and make the ad themselves rather than the ad just being plopped on by YouTube. That was a very long sine over cosine for me. So basically, I think the biggest thing I've learned is that even if you know that less people are watching it, still do your best, still make it worthwhile for the people who are watching it. And if you're concerned about a certain thing feeling unnatural on your channel, it probably would be, so you probably shouldn't do it. Trust your intuition. If you start feeling kind of like sketched out, like maybe this is not a good idea, it probably isn't. I have a massive hormonal zit in the middle of my forehead and I'm not gonna be able to conceal it, so let's just pretend she is not there. Oh my god. She's a mammoth, of course. By the way, probably don't have to make this disclaimer, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I don't want to make this video from a position of like, oh, I've cracked the code and I've figured out how to do sponsorships in the most authentic way possible. Absolutely not. I kind of just want to share what I've learned along the way of doing sponsored videos for the past about 2 years or so. And as you'll see in the last question of this video, it's a learning process that has a time limit on it. Alright, that is the virtual foundation on me. Again, literally, this product does nothing. I do not recommend this whatsoever. I literally just did spot concealing, and I think it would look the same if I'd done spot concealing on top of moisturizer. So, don't buy the virtual foundation. I'm just trying to use it up. Yeah. Next up is what is an immediate no for you when it comes to sponsorships. Most gaming apps, I would say. I don't really play any games other than like Subway Surfers. Sometimes I have to delete it every now and then because I will spend way too much time on Subway Surfers. Wordscapes, stop. Kim Kardashian Hollywood. If any of those mobile games reached out to me and wanted to do a brand deal, those are probably the only ones I would consider, besides like if Poptropica made an app. I would do that in a heartbeat. But yeah, I'm not really a gamer besides maybe like Animal Crossing, so probably would not do a gaming app sponsorship. Any like flat tummy tea type things, anything like remotely related to the keto diet. I'm sure there's a lot of other things. Any scam, obviously, so like free Kenza Cosmetics brushes or whatever. Not that I ever was reached out for that, I'm irrelevant. But yeah, I talked a lot more about this and did a more in-depth sponsorship Q&A in my Skillshare class talking about sponsorships and brand deals. Which, if you guys have time, I would love if you guys would go and watch my Skillshare class. It is free if you want to go watch it, but that class actually took a lot more time to film and edit than the first class. First class did a lot better in terms of views, but this one I feel like is more helpful to existing content creators, whereas the other one was geared more towards people who are beginners or wanting to start out. But even if you're not interested in content creation yourself, that class is a little bit more about the back end of beauty brand deals and stuff, so if you're interested in learning more about that, I would love if you'd go watch my class. But yeah, those are the immediate no's for me when it comes to sponsorships. Also, contact lenses. No. I don't know how people wear contact lenses on a daily basis. I tried to put colored contacts in for a Halloween look. I physically cannot touch my eyeball. I can't do it. I don't know how you guys do it. I'm making decent progress on my Nabla contour right now. It doesn't look like it. I've only barely like worn off the top pattern on it. Better than I was at the first product pan update video. So, question number 3 is a really good one. How often are creators taken off a PR list after giving a negative review? That's a really good question. I would say it really does depend a lot on the brands who are doing it. I find that indie brands, smaller brands in general, and ColourPop are a lot less likely to take you off a PR list for saying something bad about their products. ColourPop, that's just because they have so many releases that if you say a bad thing about one of their products, they will forget, because by the next week they have 3 new collections out. I would say the only brand that's ever like taken me off their PR list in contempt for me saying bad stuff about their products was Pure, maybe? And you know what? Warranted. I talked some shit. Not about them as a brand, but they were just coming out with some whack stuff when I was on their PR list, and I was just not holding back, so I don't blame them. And I don't get upset or like hold it against brands when they take me off PR lists. I think they're well within their rights to do that. Like, if I'm not enjoying their products, there's no point in them sending me their products continuously. Sometimes it can feel a little vindictive, like, oh, you talk bad about us? Take your makeup away. Depersonalized brands in general, they're not people, they're not like getting their feelings hurt. It's literally just business for them, and if you're not talking well about their products, you're not generating business for them, and hence they will take away free makeup. I think that's something that the beauty community in general needs to work on, is depersonalizing brands as people. And while I've interacted with many amazing people on PR teams, I still try and keep in mind that as much as I might love the people that I interact with when I'm putting together these brand deals, it is still a company that I'm not necessarily working for, because I'm not an employee of them when I do a sponsorship. It's a company driven by profit, and they're using me to kind of accelerate that point. That's just something I try and keep in mind. It's like, they're not just working with me because they love my content and I'm a ray of sunshine. I'm not. And it would be naive of me to kind of navigate brand deals with that kind of sense. Maybe some of the people who run PR departments at brands have a personal connection with me, but the brand itself doesn't. Next question is, do you have to sign a contract for every sponsorship? I would say you should. No, but you should. And that kind of might be the opposite answer that you were thinking of, because you would think that you wouldn't want to enter into contracts with brands, but in general, I feel like A, don't let brands pay you under the table, that's sketchy. Don't let brands ever get you in trouble. And B, it's always good to protect yourself and have something in writing. A good contract should never be one-sided. It should never protect the brand only and kind of just leave you hanging. So I would say that most legit sponsorships, at least, where there's an exchange of money, should have a contract. PR should never have a contract. But in any deal where there's a monetary exchange, there should be some sort of written thing in place. That being said, I would say like 99% of brand deals should never ever need your tax information. And this is the number one advice I would give to any baby influencer or baby content creator out there. Be very careful with your tax information. Most brand deals, I would say like 99% of them, even if they're in the 4 figures range, most sponsorships don't need your tax information or your W-9. If it's a legit brand and you verify that you are talking to the brand and not somebody posing as the brand, before you give it, make sure you ask, and ask very specifically, like, what are you going to do specifically with this information? Are you going to destroy it? Are you going to do everything you can to protect it? And if they're not willing to straightforwardly answer your questions,
no, I am going to leave.
the reason they shouldn't need your W-9 is because you're not an employee of them, so they shouldn't be filing you on their tax returns as an employee. I'm not saying that it's always a scam when they ask for that, but just be very careful. It's really sad and disgusting, but a lot of scammers who use this type of ruse, who like kind of pose as certain brands, especially bigger brands, will prey on smaller creators, particularly micro creators under 10,000 or so, because they're just more naive with brand deals like this and will jump at that, especially if they've formatted the email in a way that looks really legitimate. Yeah, it's gross and awful. Question number 5 is a good one. Pros and cons for taking brand deals and sponsorships. And I'm really glad this was asked, because I definitely think there are pros and cons, even if you're going about it in the best way possible. Obviously, the pro would be like supplementary income. Having that extra stream of income on top of just ad revenue from YouTube can help even out the kind of curves and the bumps throughout the year that ad revenue has, which again, YouTube ad revenue is a very unreliable system, and it has been for years. Also, it's just really cool to get to work with brands. It's very validating and sometimes can really feel like I've worked really hard and this brand is recognizing that. So I would say that those are the biggest pros. It's just a really cool experience in general. As far as cons, I would say it just kind of adds a layer of responsibility to certain videos. I think when you're doing a sponsored video with a brand, it adds a little layer of stress, because you don't have to just worry about the performance of the video for yourself, but also you want it to perform well for the brand, so they're satisfied with how you work together. With like regular unsponsored videos, for example, Bake with Julia, I knew that was not going to do as well as like my makeup videos in terms of views. Whereas like with sponsored videos, you just kind of have to, I wouldn't say necessarily worry, it just kind of adds a layer of responsibility onto that upload. When you add brands into the mix, it's just another set of eyes that's being critical of the performance of your channel, which can be exhausting, because I don't think a video's success can really be quantified in terms of numbers. And I once again bring up Bake with Julie, which honestly, probably one of my favorite videos I've done in a long time, just because I was so happy when I was filming that. Did not do numbers in terms of views, but the comment section, yes, that video didn't do as well on paper, but it was still an engaging video and did well, and people liked it, and I liked it, which is the most important thing. So I would say that's probably the biggest con, is kind of losing a little sense of ownership over your channel and kind of giving up a little bit of that responsibility to other people. I gotta start speeding through some of these questions because I'm at question number 6. And there are 12 questions. Number 6 is sponsorships you've been tempted by but decided against. Okay, I'm gonna name names. Why not? I don't care anymore. Subscription boxes, particularly FabFitFun and BoxyCharm. I considered both of those because I was like, it's kind of within my niche, like more so BoxyCharm probably, but FabFitFun as well. It's kind of like lifestyle oriented. I think I've talked about this with BoxyCharm before. Like technically, yes, it's a really good deal. Paying like $21 a month or something to get supposedly like $100 plus worth of makeup every month, but I don't think it's necessarily worth that, because it's $100-something worth of makeup every month, but you maybe wouldn't have even wanted some of those things in the first place. That's kind of just the premise of subscription boxes in general. I just think subscription boxes are a really smart way that brands are able to kind of give you products that maybe you probably wouldn't have bought in store at all, or even considered wanting to buy, getting you excited about them by making it a surprise and kind of adding in that surprise element. Particularly seeing like what FabFitFun offers has kind of illuminated for me why so many people do FabFitFun videos. For people who do really like subscription boxes, it's kind of like a makeup advent calendar in a way, but monthly. And for people who do find like joy in that and excitement every month in that, more power. And I think it is a really good deal in terms of like the monetary conversion, but for me, especially with how I like to add products to my collection, subscription boxes, particularly beauty ones, are not the best fit for me. Sorry, I was talking through the entire thing. I use the shade Marnie here all over my crease, and now I'm going to go in with Bonnie to just kind of blend out the edges of that. Question number 7, how do you know when a brand deal is about to fall through? Mostly when the brand starts like spacing out their replies to my emails. Like if a brand was replying within the day when I was first emailing them, but then after I send them my rate card and they start replying like every 2-3 days, I know that it's over. And I know then it's probably better to not like get my hopes up about, hey, maybe I'll close this deal and maybe I'll be able to work with this brand. If they start like dragging their feet and replying to you, is probably because they don't want to work with you. Sometimes they're genuinely just kind of dragging their feet and being slow, but I think a lot of the time they use the excuse of like, hey, I gotta go run this by my manager and like run this by upper management, when really they just don't want to work with you anymore. Question number 8 is, would you ever go on a brand trip?
No. Well,
I would love a free vacation, but I feel like a brand trip would just be like a brand party but extended into a full weekend and or like 4 or 5 days. No offense to the brands I've been to parties for, because thank you for inviting me, but that really it's a situation that does trigger my fight or flight. So, but I mean, if you want to fly me to Bora Bora and I only have to go to one dinner of the entire weekend, I'm down. I'm just kidding. That was obviously a joke. That was the shade Mary popped all over the lids, and I think I'm just gonna do a little smoky liner and then put some lashes on and then we're done. Questione number 9 is demonetization actually a big problem on YouTube, or are people exaggerating? I would say lately it's not, because YouTube just put a new program into place. I want to say earlier this summer, where you can kind of self-certify your videos, and as long as you're not like fudging it every time, and YouTube kind of takes your word for it. So I think that was a really good program where they listened to creators and the input. I'm very cautious with using the word over-exaggerating, because I don't think that anybody, besides maybe creators who are like creating content that is purposefully edgy with offensive humor and being like, oh, they're demonetizing me. I think that YouTube has a history of targeting certain demographics of creators with unfair demonetization, but for LGBT creators, particularly the trans community, for Black creators, for many other demographics of creators that have been targeted by the demonetization system, that YouTube has denied targeting at them. I can't really speak to whether this self-certification program has actually helped. I have no idea. But even if this program has helped, I still think demonetization is a quote-unquote big problem. YouTube likes to be all like, hey, we're a platform, we don't have any responsibility, but in that they kind of shirk the responsibility of the very real reality that they are an employer for so many people on this platform. And while I think that they've tried to take up a little bit more of that responsibility during the pandemic, I'm still fairly disheartened by how YouTube responds to things, particularly in a bureaucratic administrative sort of way. So no, I don't think that anybody's over-exaggerating. And I know that it can, especially for audiences, get exhausting to hear creators like kind of complaining about getting demonetized all the time, especially when it appears that that person has so much. Like for example, I know James Charles got dragged like 2 years ago for complaining about his content being demonetized. Even if that complaint isn't necessarily justified, the frustration behind it is very real, and I completely understand that. Question number 10 is, what is the worst thing you've ever seen in a contract? Worst, I don't have any like shocking stories, I wouldn't say. Worst thing would be like non-disclosure, like a brand being like, hey, can you not disclose? That's where I'm like, stop talking to me. But probably the worst thing I've ever read in a contract that was sent to me that I was like, hey, please modify this, was like a really weird non-compete clause where I couldn't talk about any other brands that are sold in the same vicinity or stores as the brand for 6 months. And I already think that like non-compete clauses in beauty sponsorships are kind of dumb. I can understand like Maybelline not wanting you to talk about L'Oreal, for example, for maybe like a week after doing a sponsored video for them. I think that like non-compete clauses and sponsorships are a little bit unreasonable on brand sides of things, but I understand why they're written in. I think non-competes are a very antiquated structure within contract writing, not just in beauty YouTube. Hold on. Okay, I gotta not talk while I do my eyelashes. This is a lot of pressure. I'm sweating Sweating, sweating, sweating. Question number 11 is, do you think sponsorships have changed your content? I would say no, and if you guys disagree with me, please let me know. I try my very best to make sponsored videos like this one still feel like and be exactly the same content you would get from my regular videos, just with a little integration at the beginning. I don't think that they've changed the way that I go about making my content in any way. At least in the negative side. I would say that they've kind of made me be a little bit more professional, taking what I do a little bit more seriously and trying to be a little bit more responsible in terms of like upload schedule. For example, when I'm doing more sponsored videos, I also try and put up more unsponsored videos. I like to space out sponsored videos by having at least one, if not two, unsponsored videos between them, so it doesn't feel like I'm just bombarding. But in terms of the content itself, I don't feel like that's changed too much. But again, if you feel differently, I would love to know. I'm gonna go in with the Odin's Eye Apricot Girl Matte Oval Lip Stain. Question number 12 is, do you see yourself doing sponsorships long term? No, because I don't see myself doing my channel long term. As of now, I do have kind of a vague idea of when this will end. So probably the day that I stop doing YouTube as a content creator and start doing it casually is the day that I'll stop doing sponsorships or just like aggressively DMing Kaleidos every week. Hello, I love you. If 2020 has taught me anything, is that I try not to make long-term plans because I don't know how they're gonna pan out. But at least right now, I enjoy what I'm doing and I try and focus on the now rather than dwelling too much about what the future will hold. Even starting this channel, I always knew that at some point, especially with the career that I'm hoping to go into, that I'll have to stop. I don't want to focus too much on that. I want to just kind of enjoy the time I have now and enjoy doing something that, when I started it, brought me a lot of joy. I don't want to front. In the past couple of years, YouTube has not always been like the joyous, lovely, stress-free thing that it was when I first started, but it is still something that is very rewarding, and the experiences I've had, I wouldn't trade for the world. Overall, I'm very grateful for everything. Yeah. That's it. That's all I have to say. Alright guys, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed down below. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this sponsor video. I love the very meta energy that we've created in the studio today. And if you made it to the very end of this video, you get the bonus meme. I love you. Goodbye.
Hey everyone. I'm already crying. I'm gonna try and do this with composure.